Hello everybody, how you guys doing? Welcome back to another video. So this is the build video that all you were asking for, and I know I've been really procrastinating. I've been super busy in real life, my apologies, but this build is really sick. It's using an off meta set. It hits really hard, as you can see from the BG clip I posted and the screenshots I had from my BGs, that it does a crap ton of damage, and it's really tanky as well. It's a pretty well-rounded build. It's a really fun build. And I thank you all for being patient. I really appreciate it. I just had a lot going on, but I'm getting more settled down now. So yeah, so let's just get into it without any further ado. But please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're going to do the gear, the character screen, the skills, and the CP. So yeah, let's just get into it. So on the character screen, we are chilling at, let's see here. Hold up, sorry. So we have a little bit over 15,000 magic, not too bad. A little bit over 30k health, not too bad. 26k stamina. We have 1550 stamina recovery, 5300 weapon damage before like berserk or whatever. 9300 penetration before we get our beetles, so we get up to like, I don't know, what is it, like 16 whatever, 16k or something, I don't know, something like that. Spell and physical resistance is pretty solid, to be honest. We have 30k spell resist and 27k physical resist. That's just on the front bar. So on the back bar, it's a little bit more. It's 32 and 29. So we have essentially maxed out resistances. That's why I'm also going to give you a little bit of another option. In terms of gear, if you don't want to have this much armor, you can be a little bit more squishy, but I think it works out better overall for damage. But for tankiness, I use this setup. We are using the Lava Foot. Food, it's just max stam and a lot of recovery, so it allows us to use a different Mundus Stone and go all the way weapon damage on our jewelry. So yeah, we are using the Warrior Mundus Stone. We are Vampire stage 3. So yeah, that's it. So our gear, oh yeah, sorry to mention, I am a Breton. It's not ideal. I'd go Nord or, you know, Redguard or whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Now, Breton's not the worst thing in the world because it allows me to not put anything at all into magic. So I can have that low amount of magic and, you know, I get the decent amount of recovery and I get the reduced spell cost. So that's really nice too, because we do use a good amount of magic skills like Arctic Wind and Deep Fissure, so it works out pretty good. So in terms of gear, on the front bar we are using Master's Dual Wield. We have Nirnho on the mace and Sharpen on the sword. Ideally, you want them to be switched, but I did this by accident, if I'm being completely honest. I literally didn't mean to do it. I tried to put Sharpen on the mace and Nirnho on the sword, but I literally wasn't paying attention when I transmuted them, and I just did it. I'm an idiot, what can I say? But it makes Twin Slashes deal 1600 more damage each hit on the initial attack and the bleed. Now, this hits really hard. It's a crazy amount of damage. It makes Rending Slashes become your spammable and your dot, and it applies bleed on every time you use it now. So if you just use it as your spammable, you're gonna get that crazy dot constantly. It's really nice, really nice. I don't really see myself using something else other than this if I want a stamina build. With the come up of like Deadly Cloak and stuff though, you could use Black Rose Prison Dual Wield. That's really good as well, but I don't use Deadly Cloak at the moment. I use something else. But yeah, Master Dual Wield is freaking sweet. So good, so good. He's a Poison Glyph for more dot damage. And then I use a Frost Glyph. I don't think it procs the, I don't know if it procs the Major Brittle or the Minor Brittle. I mean, I think you might have to have an Ice Staff. I'm not too sure. I forget how it works. But yeah, it's good. It applies Mayhem. So, yeah. And then on the back bar, we are using Daedric Trickery. We are using Resto Staff. I tried using Sword and Board. I tried using Two Hand. I just can't make it work without Resto Staff. I keep coming back to it. It's so good. We're using a Berserker glyph on it, and we are using Powered for the extra healing done. Now, every time I take off Daedric Trickery and I put something else on, you know what I end up doing? I play a little bit of PvP, and then I'm like, alright, time to go back to Daedric Trickery and stop playing around. This is my favorite back bar set. It really is. It's just so good. I mean, the Powered is sweet. It gives you the max health and the max stam, so you get that max stamina at all times. You don't have to worry about it. Really good. The 4 pieces max magic, and then of course, when you deal damage, you gain 1 of 5 major random buffs for 21 seconds for every 9 seconds. So basically what they're saying is you can have 3 of them up at once. The eligible buffs are Expedition, which is 30% movement, protection, which is 10% damage mitigation, mending, which is 16% healing, I think, or something like that. Yeah. Heroism is 3 ult every 1.5 seconds, and vitality is healing received. So yeah, it's really good. Some of these combinations can be super deadly, or I should say the opposite, super tanky. Let's say you hypothetically were to get heroism, mending, and vitality all together. You're getting like crazy ult, and then you're getting insane amount of heals that stack on top of the powered. So it's a really, really good set. My favorite backbar set in the whole game, unless you use like Clever Alchemist, but I like this better. It's just, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of Clever. Call me crazy, but I'm really not. So yeah. Resto Staff is, for me, is a must. If you want to use Sword and Board and you don't have problems with your magic sustain or you feel comfortable, feel free, but I just need the Resto Staff. So that's my opinion. So our Mythic right now, we're using Gaze of Sithis. This one's fire. If you don't have it, you should get it. It's a really good one. Now, it doesn't allow you to use a monster set, but it gives you so much. It's like a real tanky monster set in one, if you think about it. I mean, look how much you get for it, right? Like, you get 3,000 max health, you get 1,000 health recovery, which really doesn't matter because we are a vampire, but it's not a big deal. And then we get 4,000 armor. Now, the only bad part about it is it reduces our block mitigation to 0. Now, that is a bad part about it, I will admit, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We get so much health and so much armor, and it allows us to put more into stamina, and it just allows us to not worry about his armor as much. It's just like a crutch almost for tankiness. It feels really good to use. There are other options. I will let you know in a second. But yeah, it's really good. It's my favorite mythic besides maybe like Sea Serpent or something. But this one's really good. It worked out for the build. That's really all I can say about it. So yeah, that's what I use. And then our other 5-piece. Here we go. The off-meta set. So we are using Dragon's Appetite. I don't know if any of you have used this set, but it's a very, very, very interesting set to use, especially on a bleed/dot warden. It's really good. It's surprisingly good. So what it does is the 2 pieces weapon damage and spell damage, 3 pieces stam recovery, the 4 pieces stam recovery. Really nice. We get a decent amount of recovery. Now the 5-piece, let's see, buff up. So the 5-piece, here's what it is. Increase your damage done to bleeding enemies by 217. Dealing non-bleed damage to bleeding enemies generates a persistent stack of Dragon's Appetite up to once every half second. After 10 stacks, you consume the appetite and you heal for 10,000. The heal effects scale off your max magic or max stamina. Now, this is crazy. The 217 extra damage may not seem like a lot, but once you think about it, you apply bleeding to something. So let's see. So if we apply bleeding to this, right? It's bleeding now. That means every single thing we do is going to do 217 more damage. Every light attack, every spammable, every dot tick, every whirlwind, every tick of Dawnbreaker, every deep fissure, every tick of Arctic wind, every tick of our light attack, every heavy attack, both heavy attacks. The main thing for me that makes it so good is because it's going to make our dots tick for 200 more. How valuable is that? Because if you think about 217 extra damage on your main abilities such as rending slashes, deep fissure, things of that nature, it's not that big of a deal. But then if you think about your dots, right? Your dots are ticking for 1,500, 1,000, 2,000, whatever it may be. You're adding 217 to all of those ticks, right? So how insane is that? It's insane. You're adding so much overall damage, and on top of it, all you have to do is just fight. That's it. That's all there is to it. So you're getting extra damage, just straight damage done for just using your spammable. That's why I say that this set pairs with the Master Dual Wield so well. It pairs with the Master Dual Wield because you're going to use them rending slashes, and you're going to get 217 on the rending slashes, so that's over 400 damage right there for each slash. Then each tick you're getting 200 extra. And when you get your hemorrhaging, you get 200 extra for each one of those. So like that's like a couple thousand damage by the end of it. Like it's a lot more damage. It's really good. I am a huge fan of it, and that's not even the best part of the set. The best part of the set is the heal, right? So every half second, so you would you're basically getting this heal every 5 seconds. You're basically healing for 10k every 5 seconds. because you just if you're heavy attack weaving, or you're light attack weaving, I should say, you're gonna get this set very, 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 very quickly. That's really all there is to it. I don't know exactly how long I'll have to sit here and do it, but because these guys might die too fast. Look, I just got it from light attack. Like all you have to do is light attack, right? So, like just weaving and hitting them with anything other than bleed is so like every tick of your Arctic Wind is gonna give it to you. You know, every tick of your Dawnbreaker is gonna apply those stacks, and you're healing for 10k literally every 5 seconds. So insanely good, insanely good. Getting that extra damage and getting that crazy heal is just so valuable. You don't really realize how good it is until you're using it, and you're like, wow, like this hits. And it's really good on a bleed build. I wouldn't suggest this set on like a straight damage or burst build. It's really a bleed set. It's so good for a bleed Warden right now. So yeah, I'm really liking this set. So in terms of armor pieces, we are using heavy on the helm, heavy on the chest, heavy on the legs, and medium on the feet. And then we're using medium hands, medium waist, and one light shoulder. Now we're doing this for the Undaunted, of course. And then for your shoulder piece, I would probably go something like penetration or weapon damage, whatever you prefer. So I went with Valken Scoria for the pen. But yeah, you want to get a mixture of reinforced, well fitted, and impen, but impen's not all that big of a deal, I don't think, anymore. In my opinion. I think reinforced and well fitted are better. But yeah, that's the 5-piece. And then the jewelry, of course, is Danger Trickery. Now, we have 2 Swift and 1 Infused. I like Swift. It's pretty good. And I went with all weapon damage. Now, just to throw it out there, if you don't want to use Gaze of Sithis, you have every right to take that off. What I would do is I would I would put on the Danger Trickery helm, just so you can get the extra piece there. And then you have a couple options. Now, you could either go with Sea Serpents. I like Sea Serpents as long as you're using Swift. It's a really good mythic for damage, and you don't lose. Like, let's look. So like we have 26 and 23. It's not amazing like that, and on the back bar 28 and 25. That's probably plenty of armor considering how much weapon damage and straight up damage you'll get from Sea Serpent. So in the grand scheme of things, it might be better overall. But I am a fan of Sea Serpent, and yeah, Sea Serpent is another great option. Now, if you don't want to use Sea Serpent and you don't have it, another good option is Malakath. Why is Malakath such a good option? Well, you literally do all dots. Well, not all, but you do a good amount of dots, right? So you're going to make your skills just hit harder. We aren't using Green Lotus, so we don't have an extra, I guess, how do you say, crit bonus. So we would really benefit from just getting straight up damage, and your dots will hit harder. That bleed will scale even better. So yeah, you could just use that Malakath, and then of course you can use Ring of Majesty, because that makes up for the armor that you lose when you lose Gaze of Sithis, except all you get in return is some extra spell damage. So totally up for your discretion. Again, I am a big supporter of Gaze of Sithis. I'm not big on blocking anyways. I'm more of a dodge roll type player and kiting. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about the gear. So anyways, let's move on to the skills. So on the front bar, we have Growing Swarm. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you have a couple options. The reason I use Growing Swarm is because 1, it's AoE, really good. 2, it's bleed, so it helps you with your proc. It gives you minor vulnerability, and it gives you 900 penetration. So very good. It gives you a lot of other things besides just the damage from the skill. That's why I use it. Now, you could use Deadly Cloak instead. Use Deadly Cloak, you get major evasion, but we can get major evasion from Danger Trickery, so I'm not too concerned about it. That's the reason I use what I use. Yeah, that's why I use it. So another good option, if you don't want to use Growing Swarm and you're really against it for whatever reason, even though the vulnerability is sick, you can use Cutting Dive. Cutting Dive will be your spammable in this scenario, and then you could use Rending Slash as just your dot, but I advise against that. I really don't think it's that good. I prefer Bleed with the Growing Swarm. So yeah. Our next skill is going to be Deep Fissure. You know how it is. Very hard-hitting skill. Applies major and minor breach. Does a crap ton of damage. Changed it a little bit this patch. It's quick after 3 seconds, but It does less damage on the first hit, and then the next hit does a crazy amount of damage. Now, it's really not that bad with the change timer. I actually kind of like it. I feel like it helps me set up my burst. I don't remember to do it every time, and sometimes I need to get the damage out quicker, but the change isn't all that bad because of how hard it hits on the second one. Like, sometimes I'll literally save my Dawnbreaker and get ready, and I'll stun with Arctic Wind and heavy attack. Boom, Dawnbreaker and Fissure at once. It's crazy. So here we're using Bird of Prey. In my opinion, it is one of the single best skills in the entire game. Major Expedition gives you immunity to snares, gives you Major Berserk, and it gives you a 900 penetration. Or, I'm sorry, 1,000 penetration, actually. So yeah, really good skill, must have it. Here we're using Spin to Win. Whirling Blades, it does a lot of damage, and it's a great finisher. Important skill. Rending Slashes, like I mentioned earlier, or about 1,000,000 times, does 3,000 for each tick, so it does 6,000 plus the 16 or the 1,500 from the master dual wield, so it does another 3,000. So we're talking 6,000. So it does like 8,000 spam, a little bit over 8,000 as your spammable, and then 13,000 over 20 seconds. But in reality, it probably does around 30,000 over 20 seconds because of the master dual wield. So let's see. Yep, does over 30k over 20 seconds. And on top of it, we apply Poison, another dot, and we also apply Hemorrhaging, that's another dot. So this skill causes so much damage in just one cast. It's so good. So, it's my favorite DPS skill in the game, I think, right now. It's just a very, very good skill. So lastly, of course, we're using Dawnbreaker. Just my favorite ult in the game. It's just so good. It hits hard, it stuns, it does AoE damage, it gives you extra weapon damage for slotting it. Like, too good. Never going to get rid of it. Back bar, we're using Ice Fortress, as we know. Minor Protection, Major Resolve. Easy, easy, easy. Here we're using Leeching Vines. A must. I feel like it's such a good stack with Vigor. Really good. Another half-decent option, not great, is Shimmering Shield. Now, we don't use it because you get Major Evasion, or I'm sorry, Major Heroism from Daedric Trickery, so you don't need it. That's why I like using Daedric Trickery on this build, because a lot of the buffs that you would have to use skills to access, you can just use in the set. We're using Arctic Blast too. They changed this skill. Now it heals very, very well. It heals like a truck. Mine ticks for almost 11k, about 11k, non-crit. And then on top of that, it does actually a lot of damage. It does 1,600 every 2 seconds, which is a very good amount of damage. Actually 2,000 every 2 seconds. It applies the chilled status effect a lot. And on top of it, you don't have to wait 3 ticks for it to stun anymore. So what I do is I'll use a Deep Fissure like this, and then I'll Arctic Wind, Deep Fissure. See, they're stunned for the Deep Fissure, so that's what I do a lot of the time. Very, very good, very successful. Works well for me. So very good skill. A burst heal, that's your CC. I mean, come on, and it does a lot of damage over time. Also, this will be affected by Dragon's Appetite. It'll get the extra 217 damage for every tick. So very good. Of course, we're using Vigor. You know, bread and butter skill of every build nowadays. It has a really strong heal, over 21,000, and you get Minor Resolve. Now, this basically makes Magma Incarnate useless, right? Because people are using Magma to get that spell damage and the Resolve, but now you get that just from using Vigor. Now, I don't have any freaking idea why they buffed it. I don't understand it, because Rapid Regen is now useless compared to it. Vigor's just better in every way, shape, and form. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is. They, you know, whatever. Lastly, we're using Bull Netch. Gives you a good amount of recovery, Major Brutality, Major Sorcery, you know, and it's a cleanse, so it's very good. Lastly, we're using Healing Thicket. It heals for almost 11k. Actually, it heals it for, yeah, over 11k. So, very nice. Very, very nice. Let's kill this Dre. Okay. So, yeah, that's the skills, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. Like I said, you could put on Cutting Dive here. You could put on another dive, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Cutting Dive. Trap Beast is another half-decent option. Deadly Cloak is another good option. You are looking to change it up just a bit. So, yeah, I just wanted to give you some choices. If you're really feeling feisty, you could throw on Camo Hunter. Camo Hunter is another good one. Now, the reason I don't use Camo Hunter is because, well, I already have the Minor Berserk, but you would get some extra damage just from being able to crit. So, being able to crit more would make a big difference, I think, too. But I do like the Growing Swarm for that minor vulnerability. So, yeah. I hope you all really, really enjoyed the video. And as always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe.